Hey everybody, it's Jack with Future Pastimes, and we are reading Dune, my old and battered copy of Dune. We're on the 5th chapter. It's a short chapter, and we'll get into some spoilers on the movie. So if you haven't seen the movie, go watch that movie and then come back and we'll read Dune. This one starts with an entry from the Dictionary of Muad'Dib by Princess Irulan, and it's the entry for Wellington YUEH. He is a medical doctor of the Suk School. He's married to Wanda Marcus, but he's chiefly noted as the betrayer of Duke Leto Atreides. So there's no mystery. There's no surprise here for the readers about who the traitor is. That is clear very early on. And for the movie, however, they do keep that as a secret. It's a surprise when it happens. And a lot of people who were not familiar with Dune watching the movie probably didn't know that it was going to be Dr. YUEH as the traitor, although maybe they guessed it. But here we know, and the chapter is all about YUEH, and he's racked with guilt about knowing that he has to betray the Atreides. You get the sense that he would have loved to have just been a loyal member of the household. By all accounts, he sees Paul as a great student, just like all of Paul's other mentors. He remarks to himself that it's such a waste, that Paul is really coming into his own, but this betrayal is going to put an end to that. But he can't get out of it. He just knows that he's got to do what he can to end his wife's suffering. So he has come in and he lets Paul know that there's not going to be a lesson. There's really no time for it because everyone's rushing to get off to Arrakis. He lets Paul know also that he's going to be visited by the Duke, and Paul hasn't had a real chance to hang out with his dad since the Atreides family was given the fiefdom to Arrakis. So it's been all busy, busy, busy. So Paul's very excited by that, and I think he's just been finished up his training with Gurney, and he's on a massage table after gotten a massage, and so he's really relaxed. And I think the combination of being so relaxed but also excited about seeing his dad, he does not pick up on any of the nervousness that YUEH has. And YUEH is giving Paul a gift. He's giving him a tiny physical copy of the Orange Catholic Bible. So it's interesting that Catholicism in the far future, tens of thousands of years in the future, is still a thing, although it has evolved, because we're going to get a sneak peek of a passage from the Orange Catholic Bible that is not any passage that I think we're familiar from the regular Bible. So the religion is still a thing in the Dune Imperium, but it has evolved just like everything else. YUEH's also given Paul some film book lessons that he can do on the trip, which Paul is like, okay. So that's kind of funny. It's a very typical teenager response. Like, we're going on vacation. It's not really vacation, they're moving. But you're still going to have lessons on there. Although it is stuff that YUEH knows is going to interest Paul. So again, I think YUEH is trying to distract Paul from himself and from Dr. YUEH as well. It's going to be lessons on the life forms on Arrakis. So there are a variety of animal life forms on Arrakis. Paul, of course, is most keenly interested in the worms, and Dr. YUEH knows this and says, yeah, there will be a lesson on a small worm, only 100 or so meters long. And they talk a little bit about Fremen. Paul is hoping that there's going to be some sort of lesson on the Fremen. He's intensely curious about them. So they talk a little bit about the Fremen, and the takeaway we get there is that the women are as fierce as the men. So that is interesting as well. And of course, the blue within blue eyes as well, which is not a mutation, but saturation of the spice from just always being around it. But yes, throughout the chapter, YUEH is basically saying, I'm kind of a hypocrite. I'm giving Paul this gift, and I'm talking about all the great things we're going to learn when we get there, and it's all BS. He knows that it's not a bright future for Paul. But he's basically stealing himself. He's basically saying, all right, you've got to go through with it. But that doesn't mean he has to like it. He has Paul read that passage, but Paul accidentally reads a different passage. So the book is printed on a little tiny filament, and so you don't actually touch the pages. It's too delicate for that. It has its own magnification, and it seems like it's a Kindle on steroids, and so, but there's little notches, and Paul actually activates the notch for an entry that was Juana's favorite passage from the OC Bible, and he starts to read that, and YUEH recognizes it and yells stop, and which startles Paul, but YUEH explains honestly that it was he calls it his dead wife, so not totally honest, but says my wife's favorite passage, and he's like, you know what, let's just, we'll leave it at that. Your dad's going to be here. Why don't you put that away? And don't let your mom and dad know that you have this. They might think that it's too expensive of a gift for a teenager. But really, YUEH doesn't want Lady Jessica to know because she might be suspicious of why Dr. YUEH is giving Paul a Bible. So it is an interesting passage. It's a very short one, but we get to meet Dr. YUEH. We get to learn that he is not a traitor because he thinks it's a good idea. He's racked with guilt about it. We get the physical description of him as well. We learn about the tattoo and the diamond shape for the imperial conditioning, although it's still not really clearly spelled out yet what that means. He's got the ponytail with the silver Suk graduate school ring there and a droopy mustache. So quite a character. I liked the portrayal of Dr. YUEH in the book, but like with just about anything that I can complain about in the movie, I wish there had been more. There is a chapter that will be coming up with Dr. YUEH that was not in the movie that I would have loved to have seen in there. So I think that the trade-off with the filmmakers was we're not going to really get a lot of good sympathetic insight into Dr. YUEH in exchange for surprising the audience that he is the traitor. So in the Lynch movie, we figure out earlier than the actual betrayal that Dr. YUEH is the traitor. And we get a nice exchange between Dr. YUEH and Lady Jessica in the movie where she can tell he's hiding something or holding something back, but she chalks it up to the pain of his wife, which is what he's counting on. So we don't really get that part of the relationship, but they try to do it in other ways with Dr. YUEH advising Paul that to just be on his guard when he's being interviewed by the Reverend Mother, which does not happen in the book. So that was an exchange in the movie that was for the movie. So I think that was interesting. And they speak in a language that only Paul and Dr. YUEH are likely to understand. So that's a nice little touch as well. So I understand the trade-offs, but I still would have loved to have seen more in there. So that's it for this chapter. It's a short one. Let me know in the comments what you think of this chapter, if anything, and any of your other thoughts based on what we know so far, and how it compares to the movie, or just if you are purely enjoying this on the level of the book, what you're thinking about stuff so far. That's it for this one. Thanks for watching. See you again soon.